Alright legends, today I'm gonna do a full breakdown how I was able to 10x my own damage over the past year. I mean, there was so many things that I learned across the year that I really want to share, and I want to update this DPS guide because a lot of things will make sense once I explain to them. And have in mind that this is more like a puzzle and that the damage formula, it is actually pretty complex. So if you guys want to take a screenshot of this and just read it through, all I can say, it's just gonna be a combination of multiple buckets, but we are here to make things simple. And because of that, I want to explain to you how this all journey started. It was like about 11 months ago. I made like this max DPS build for my Barbarian, which at the time, at the 11-second mark, I was doing 2.8 million damage, which it was crazy. I mean, like I was doing so much damage for what I thought it could be possible in Diablo Immortal, but I knew that I was not actually fulfilling my own potential. So for the next months, maybe like 6 months, I started like really working on trying to figure out like every single detail of how could I actually optimize my account, and I was able to have this huge bump to 14 million damage per second. And then I was like, okay, can I actually push this even further? So very recently I was playing with the Blood Knight. It just got a huge buff, and there was a build that I started playing with, and I was able to reach to the 21.6 million damage, and I was absolutely blown away because this is literally 10xing my damage in just a span of a few months. So we're gonna go through every single detail so I can actually hopefully share this with you guys, and you also can learn and apply on your account, and hopefully you also can 10x your own damage. So let's start with the first topic, which is gonna be the classes and the builds that you're gonna use. Obviously right now I am playing with the Necromancer. This is a class that does very well almost every single thing, but have in mind that in this game obviously you're gonna have certain classes that gonna be specialists in AoE ability, and others that's gonna be more like into single targeted, and there are others in certain difficulties and with the new instances and new builds that pretty much can do everything. But most of the times, like, you actually gonna have like multiple builds to do different types of content. So for example, if I want to do PvP, I'll probably go with this build, but more important is like if I want to go and do dungeons, most likely I will change to this build because it is a build that is more focused to do AoE damage. Also it has the speed, it has the mobility, and that's all I want because I want to farm those dungeons really fast. But if I'm going to do raids, which is like a big sitting boss that I don't have to move a lot because, you know, maybe you have to do the mechanics, but the boss is going to stay still, then I can literally change my build to go into a more single target damage build. So please have in mind that whenever you're trying to create and play this game, that you change the builds to output the maximum efficient for whatever you are actually gonna do. So now that we are talking about builds, let's talk about what makes a build, or part of it. There are gonna be the instances, and the instances are something that also is gonna bump your damage because a lot of them, they have like a certain increased damage multipliers. So for example, the chest piece here, you're gonna have increased damage multiplier, but it has a condition, and the condition is gonna increase 38% of your damage if the target it is burning. And because I know that on my build I'm applying multiple burns, I know that this is always gonna be active. However, there is also other instances that they have like different mechanics, but the result will also be the same. The Grim Side will now also slice the enemy's armor, and it's gonna stack up to 3 times, getting an increase of 34.2% more damage. So just based on these two, I already have about 70% damage increase, and whenever you multiply these through every single thing on my build, well, you start understanding how the damage starts scaling. However, like whenever you first start in the game, or whenever you actually change the classes, you actually not gonna have these at, for example, 38%. And why is that? Because you're not gonna have your mastery level at mastery 4, which is the maximum. So this probably is gonna be at level 1, maybe like 12%, level 2, then it keeps increasing until you actually reach to the mastery 4. So in the beginning of the game, I have multiple guides of how to farm this legendary gear. So please try to focus on getting your mastery level at 4 as soon as possible, because you're gonna see an insane increased damage on your character, because whenever you multiply this by 8, well, you know what I'm talking about. Now let's go into another topic, which is the combat rating. This is like one of the biggest mechanics inside the game. We call in other games most likely like gear score, which is the score of your gear or the combat rating that will dictate whenever you can actually level up on these difficulties. So for example, right now I'm at Inferno 9 and I need 50,000 2600 combat rating if I want to play just on Inferno 9. But more important than that is that whenever you go above that number, you're actually gonna have an increase all damage up to 11%. Also, you're gonna have a decreased damage, but you always want to try to be above the requirement of the combat rating, so you actually also get this 11% more damage. So now let's go and talk about something that the players always love, which is the resonance. And as you guys can see here, right now I'm at 2.4 thousand resonance. And what does this do is basically it's gonna increase your equipment base attributes. So whenever, for example, I go here into my chest piece and I open this inspector, you're gonna see that you're gonna have your base attributes, which is the 850. Then you also have the rune, which is gonna increase this damage. But then you're gonna have the resonance, which is the legendary gem bonus, which is gonna increase by a certain percentage. So in my case, it's gonna increase by 124%. And that's what you actually see here. It literally just gets that 124% and multiplies over the base attributes, which is gonna increase my total damage of my helmet. The thing is, and why resonance it is actually pretty cool, it makes people really tanky and also do more damage, is because this increases over every single base attribute of every single item. And because you have 16 items, well, you can see how this can actually scale a bit out of control. However, with this being said, please don't think that resonance it is the only grail. There's a lot of other things that you probably should focus on, because there's way cheaper and easier ways to actually bump your damage. Now let's go here into the legendary gems, because this is a big topic and something that I really want to try to focus on. So right now on my build, you're gonna see that yes, I have a bunch of like a mix between 1 stars and 5 stars and 2 stars. And the thing is, like, as you keep playing the game, you're gonna start having more options of how to optimize, you know, the right legendary gems for the right build. But as a key takeaway, the things that you really want to focus on, the legendary gems, doesn't matter if it is 1, 2, or 5 stars, it is legendary gems that gonna have, for example, the critical hit chance it is gonna be increased, or you're gonna have things like it's gonna increase your skill damage, and just make sure that you're playing a skill damage based build and not a primary attack base. Then you're also gonna have things like the hunt coil that you're gonna apply a debuff on the target that's going to increase 28% more damage on the target. So whenever you multiply all these damage increases, the skill damage and also the critical hit strike, well, you're going to realize that you're going to start doing way more damage. One of the best gems, which is one of my favorites, literally the best legendary gem in the game, it is the Berserker Eye. And why do I say this? Not because it's the most powerful, but because it is the most powerful / cheaper to build inside the game. So this is going to increase 16% your total damage. Also, it's going to give you an increase of your critical hit chance by 2%. So please, whenever you're first starting out to play this game, try to focus on these gems like the Berserker Eye, Surging Sea, Entropic Well. Also, we have the Pain class, Mother's Lament, Spectral Glass. Then you also have, for example, this one from the Battle Pass, which is the Fervent Fang, that can increase your damage up to 30%, 20% from the stacks, and then 6% if it is an elite at a boss. Really, really crazy. You're also gonna have access along the way to these limited time gems, hopefully if they come back to the game, but in the future there's gonna be more limited time gems. So these ones are also pretty cool. But if you're a whale, or if you get really lucky as a spender or a free-to-play player, these are definitely some 5 stars that you want to have in mind. The Bloodsoaked Jade, Rolling Consequence, Bottle Hope, Colossus, Blood Flow, and Hunt Coil. These are definitely S tier gems that you really, if you get lucky and you get them at least to rank 4, you definitely can use them. So make sure that you are putting the right eggs in the right basket, because there's nothing worse than actually, you know, putting your resources in the wrong legendary gems, because they can literally step back your progression by a mile. So now let's talk about Awaken slots. Awaken slots, it is something like, if you see here on my gear, I have all my gear with this purple frame, and what it does is that whenever you have a legendary gem rank 4, you can actually start thinking about awakening the slot. So if you see here, I got these green text at the end of the Essence text, which says that the Grim Sight is gonna increase your damage by 10%. But if I go here, for example, to the shoulders, it's gonna say that the Bone Armor, which is a Bone Armor Essence, is gonna have its cooldown decreased by 10. So the way you awaken your slots is that once you have 1 and your 2 stars or 5 stars at rank 4, you can actually go to the store and you can buy here in the materials these Dawning Echoes that is gonna cost you per slot 10,000 plat. Or if you want to spend some money, it's gonna cost you 1,000 orbs. But this is just gonna be a one-time deal that you're gonna awaken every single slot, which is gonna be 8 slots, so it's gonna be about 80,000 plat. I know it's cost, but once it's done, it's gonna be a huge power boost. So make sure that you really are using rank 4 gems whenever you have your awaken slots, because I see a lot of players that they tend to actually go and use, for example, a lot of like 1-star 5-star gems, because they don't understand of how actually this game works. So please don't make like these common mistakes that a lot of players they make. Always try to put a rank 4 or higher gem in your gem slot, because that will definitely make your account so much better. Now let's go here into the set items, and this is also a big topic in this game, because depends on the build that you're using, the set items will also change accordingly to what is most effective. But right now here I am using a build that the way it's gonna apply some extra damage is gonna be through burning. So the 2 pieces is gonna increase the duration of my burn. Then I'm also gonna have here a 15% chance of applying a burn on the target. Then I also have another increased duration by using the Feasting's Barons, which is going to increase the duration of my burn for 30% more. Then I have here even more 24% for my Misery Elixir. And then I use some pants that whenever the Grim Sight is gonna hit them, well, it's just gonna resolve all the damage, all those 20 seconds of duration of the burning into a big hit. And like this, you can actually reach probably like millions of damage just by doing this mechanic. But there are definitely other ways that you can do. You can increase your damage in a much simpler way. Depends on the class that you're playing. For example, you have here this setup that the Ed Winters, whenever a target is going to be with shield, is going to increase 15% more damage. Or whenever it's going to be frozen, is going to increase by 30%. Then you also have these Seeds of Sun Gold that if you're using a channeling build, now, if you start channeling your ability, it's gonna increase 30% of your channeling skill. And whenever you stop channeling, well, it's gonna do 30% of the damage explosion. So, all these damage multipliers are gonna be very important to determine exactly how much damage the build that you're using is gonna make. And please just have in mind that definitely there is not a one size fits all, because every build will probably use very different set items. Now let's go here into the secondaries, and oh man, this is a hot topic, man. The secondaries, it is something that whenever you're first starting, it is gonna be extremely low. I've been playing for a year and a half. I focus a lot on my secondary attributes, and why they are important is because whenever you are above the requirements of the Inferno difficulty that you're on, you start having an increase of your critical hit damage. If you are below the requirement of the difficulty, well, it's just gonna be 0%, which is not bad. I mean, like, you're just not gonna crit more than you already have. But the worst one, it is actually the potency. The potency is the one that whenever you are above the requirements of the difficulty that you're on, is going to increase the duration of your harmful effects, which is your armor breaks, the burning effects, or the bleeds, anything that is applied on a target. But if you're actually below the potency of the requirement, will actually decrease the duration of your harmful effects, which like this will actually reduce a lot of your damage. So whenever you first start in the game, try to focus on just getting your normal gems with the blue, the sapphires, to get like your armor penetration up, and also the yellow ones to get your potency up. So these are going to be 2 major things that you should focus on, and that's why a lot of players, they start focusing a lot on their main attributes, which is always like fortitude and willpower, because fortitude will increase your armor and armor penetration, and the willpower will also increase your potency and resistance. Yes, you can also go, for example, with intelligence or strength, depends on your class, which is also going to increase the damage that you do. But the stats that you should always try to aim for earlier on, it is definitely fortitude, willpower, and intelligence or strength. So now let's go here into a fun part, which is the substats. And this is something that I really had to tweak along the way, because there's a lot of things that I actually learned. So we're gonna go per slot, and I'm gonna try to explain the thought process and what you should be always focusing on. So the first thing is, as we know, like critical hit chance, it is king in this game. if you're not critting, you're gonna do so much less damage. So you want to make sure that you always focus on having your base crit as high as you can. Also, then you want to try to have multiple crit gems, like for example, Mother's Lament, then the Rolling Consequence. These two are like golden, especially for low spenders or free-to-play players. And then here on the main attributes, that's when things start getting a bit exciting, because we already spoke about the main attributes, which is 40 willpower in intelligence or strength, and then we're gonna have the sub-stats. So on your headpiece, your shoulders, and your weapons, you should always go with a critical hit chance. Also, you should try to get the critical hit damage also as high as you can. And here, in this specific ancient gear, I also can have the beneficial effect duration, but this is exclusive to the Horde Splinter, because if it was a normal helmet, you could actually not get it. But one of the things that also this ancient helmet has that is pretty good is that the damage, it is increased by 6%, which is a lot whenever you are moving, and because I'm going to be moving all the time inside the dungeon, this is actually perfect for me. Here on the shoulders, I have critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and primary attacks. You can also go with attack speed or the skill damage. Attack speed probably will be better. Then you're gonna have here on the weapons, and this is like something that it really changed the way I started building my characters, is because I also started building my character with the damage loss of control. And as you guys can see here, I got damage loss of control on all of my weapons, okay? 10% here, 7.5% here, 7.5% here, and 10% here. Damage loss of control, it is whenever you are gonna apply a shield, which can come by the source of, for example, your primary attacks or runes, or you're just applying some crowd control or CC on any other source. But the good thing is that it actually doesn't need to be your own slow or loss of control. It can come from pretty much any player that you are in party, which is pretty good. Then on his main hand, we went with the skill damage and also the crit hit chance. And the reason why I started putting skill damage instead of like critical hit damage is because I was actually getting to a point that I am getting almost above the cap. So the cap of the PvE critical hit damage, it is 120%. So I got 43.5% here. Then we have 53% here. So it's more or less 96%. And then I also get some critical hit damage just here from my blood flow, which is gonna give me the extra 26% critical hit damage, which actually makes me go even above the cap like this. So this is a way that you can also min-max whenever you know like all these this cap, to make sure that you're trying to squeeze as much damage multipliers as you can. So then we went here again with skill damage instead of critical hit damage. Then here, critical hit damage, critical hit chance, and also damage loss of control. If your piece looks more or less like these ones, then you're probably doing a good job. Other big source, it is the beneficial effect duration. So this is actually going to be a main stat for you to increase the duration, not only about the skills that you see here in the bottom, but also your legendary gems. Okay, you see here the blood flow, it is active. Then you have also the movement speed. You also have the paragons. You're also gonna have, like for example, here the rolling consequence. Everything it is proccing, because all of these gems are actually buffs. And the way you see that, for example, the Berserker Eye, it just says increase all damage. So it doesn't say any duration. But if you go here to the rolling consequence, it's gonna say that dealing damage will send you on a rolling rage for 6 seconds. So the base duration of this legendary gem, it is 6 seconds, but if you have the beneficial effect duration, it can actually be increased by a lot. So you can get beneficial effect duration on your chest piece, you can also get it here on your pants, and you can also get it on your belt and on your boots. So these are the 4 slots that you can actually get it. You also can get it in other sources, for example, using the tier, which is also going to increase your beneficial effect duration. Or you can also go with, for example, the skill cooldown reduction, which we're gonna talk about it right now. So skill cooldown reduction, it is most likely your next priority, because whenever you're gonna have enough skill cooldown reduction, which the cap is gonna be 30%. Right now, I have 16%. But remember whenever I talked about the Awaken slots that I have 26, but then here, if I have 10% more for my Awaken slots, now all of a sudden I have 26%, so I am very near the cap of the 30%. And that together, whenever you have this beneficial effect duration, you're gonna actually reach to a state that you're gonna have all of these buffs durations here at 100% uptime. And this like should be one of your main goals whenever you first start in the game. You always want to have your skills 100% uptime because it's just gonna make your damage output way higher whenever you're first starting out. So the next one is gonna be the attack speed. One of like the biggest misconceptions about attack speed is that it is mainly only for the primary attack, which is not true. So if you ever have doubt in any skill, just click on top of it and you're gonna see that the attack speed is gonna increase the speed of your skills and your primary attacks, which means that the higher is gonna be my attack speed, the faster like these animations of the sights, they start rotating around me. This is gonna be very important for you to focus on. Then we're gonna have here another thing. It's gonna be the Reforge sets. I'm gonna literally show you what are the best Reforge sets right now for the meta in this game. So we have here the PvE, damage to loss of control, damage to demons, attack speed, beneficial effects duration, and the critical hit damage. So these are the ones that you have to understand, like this can actually go up to 5%, this can go up to 6%. I don't have them mid-max because it's really hard, especially for a low spender or free-to-play player. But if you're a whale and you want to spend like a lot of money in this game, well, definitely maxing out your Reforges can take you a long way. So make sure that even if you're not going to have the maximum attributes, just have the right attributes is going to take a long way. And the biggest thing about the Reforge sets is that whenever you're actually using and some primary attacks in the middle of your rotation, you're also going to have a 2% chance of increasing your damage by 100% for 1 second, which it is absolutely insane. And because we will have 8 slots, it's actually going to get decreased the cooldown. That's going to be able to proc, I think, like every 8 seconds or every 10 seconds, something like that. So it's going to be like very useful and you're going to have most of the times always uptime. The other thing is going to be the charm. Oh man, the charm, it is something that honestly, I don't even have it, okay? The damage multipliers are just like too small for me to even care. And because I've played like a lot of classes, this is actually not really that worth it. It takes like a big effort to actually go for it. I'm still waiting for them to actually make a new charm system or to just improve it, because the way it is right now, it is not like really that great. But definitely, if you play your character as a main character, definitely try to have some charm that is gonna have the skills that you are using, okay? So if you go here and this is your main build, obviously I will try to get a charm with the Corpse Lance, Grim Sight, Bone Spirit, and as well the Bone Armor, and probably maybe the Soulfire if I could get it on. So that will be definitely the perfect charm. It will be to just have these multipliers from 2% to 10% on my charm. But you know what? If you're a low spender or free-to-play player, please don't put a lot of effort in it, and especially do not waste your platinum. Now let's talk about the runes, because this is like a recent system that went to the game a couple of months ago. And I'm just gonna highlight the ones that I think are the most important. So on the main hand, having the Fa or even the Lev will actually take you a long way, because as I said, whenever you're going to use your primary attacks, you're actually going to be able to apply this reduction of attack and movement speed, which is going to be a chill effect, which is going to proc your damage loss of control. So having the Lev or the Fa will work either way. Just try to get these ones. But if you're trying to farm, well, this main hand one, like SA, which is going to increase your movement speed, it is also pretty damn good. So, going with these ones for your main hands, either way, the blue, the gold, or the legendary, whatever you have, just slot it in. Whenever it comes here to the offhand, the story is a bit different. You got these ones, which is like, they don't really matter. The only one that it matters, honestly, it is gonna be the Zoo, which is gonna increase your critical hit chance by 4%. This is gonna be great, especially if you're first starting the game. If there is any plat that you really want to spend on the runes, it's only on this one, because 4% times 2, which is gonna be 8% of crit on these runes. I was lucky, very lucky enough to actually farm all of these legendary runes. Hopefully now I'm a bit more chill. I don't need to farm as much. Then here, the other one that is also really important, it is gonna be on the chest piece. And this one is not gonna be the legendary one. If you see, I have it, but you wanna use the Seer, because this is gonna actually give you a substat that now, whenever you're killing monsters, you're actually gonna have a 9% chance of them exploding whenever they die. That's absolutely insane. So whenever you're actually killing those packs, you're gonna see some explosions popping. Now here on the head and the shoulder slot, you're gonna have the oats, which is gonna increase your attack speed, but instead of increasing your beneficial effect duration like the tier, is also gonna increase your skill cooldown reduction. Either way, like they both work. Honestly, I think I preferred a bit more like the skill cooldown reduction because it helps me more in PvP. But if you don't have it, well, don't worry about it because the tier is also S tier. They both will work really well. These are literally the best runes that you can focus on. On the pants, honestly, it doesn't like really matter what you get because they are all like kind of not that great. The only one that I can highlight is like this blue one, which is gonna give you this endure that's gonna literally regen 1% of your life every time that you're out of the attack. So can be good for you to regen some life and not to be able to use a lot of like your potions, but that's all about it. So now let's go here into the paragons because you're gonna understand like also the paragon will help you a lot whenever it comes to the damage multipliers. But more important is that whenever you actually are trying to use these skills, you're gonna see that a lot of them is actually gonna apply like some increased damage, for example 10 stacks. Then you're also gonna have others that's gonna have increase of your critical hit chance. You also have here the bloodthirst. It's gonna increase again your damage that you do, and whenever like you stack these things up, you're gonna have this increase of damage, which is very nice. But on top of that, every time that you're leveling up on your paragon, you're gonna have access to these paragon points, which they are also gonna start increasing your arm penetration, your potency, your damage, which is gonna be very good. Whenever you're like at the end game, well, you're just gonna go here, you're gonna use your points, and then bam, I just got 15% more damage. Yeah, that's goated. So regarding the paragons that are mostly popular, this is one of them, which is the one that usually does more damage. If you are using dash skills, you can also go with something like this. For example, it's very useful for Tempest. But if you're still early on in the game and your gear is still not at rank 30, well, please try to focus on having something like this because you still need to have that extra equipment, extra gold, so you can get your gear to rank 30, because that will be able to unlock your Reforge bonus every time that you're gonna be able to reach to the rank 6 of your gear, rank 11, rank 16, rank 21, and the final one is going to be the rank 26. Okay, so every time that you're going to go through these, your goal should be able to reach to rank 26 as soon as possible. Now let's talk about here the Helliquary. Okay, this is something that I see that a lot of players, they tend to just go in the beginning of the game. And the right way to do it, it is just go with the highest combat rating, because combat rating is going to be the most important until you reach to the last difficulty, to the end game. Just slot whatever you have with combat rating. But once you have enough combat rating, like I have, then you want to start shifting your focus into having just 42 willpower, because these main attributes will literally help you to actually get better secondaries on your character, which is gonna help you in PvE but also in PvP. So I tend to go 14 willpower to bump like those secondaries, because that's the way that you can actually do a lot of damage. And have in mind, because I see a lot of people that tell me on the comments and it's wrong, they say, oh, but this is only for the raids and the challenge rifts. Well, the only thing that's from raids and challenge rifts is only this bottom section. The top one, the bonus attributes, this is gonna be applied anywhere. Okay, so I just wanted to make that clear. The other thing, it is gonna be the Warband. Okay, if you're still not in the Warband, please join the Warband. It is literally key. Not only you're gonna be able to unlock this extra legendary crest, but more important, whenever you're talking about damage, you actually want to farm with your Warband these remnants, because these remnants is going to be very important, especially the attacker room, which is going to increase your damage. But you can look at here, the manifest carnage is going to increase your critical hit damage by 10% whenever your critical hit chance is greater than 70%. Do you see why it's important to have the critical hit chance as high as you can, so you can also get this 10% extra? Then there is also the Typhus, which is going to increase your damage by 6%. And the last one, and unfortunately I still didn't get the triples, it is also the Collar of Brutus, which is going to increase your damage by 10% more. So a godly tier, S tier, will actually be if you had all of these golden ones in a single one. It is really hard to actually farm. You need to go to Purge of Tips and get like extremely lucky when it comes to it. But yeah, this is just a way that you guys can do it. Also, you have here the Coward's Rage, which is also nice, 3% more damage. And then you also have the War Vase, which is going to increase 3% of your critical hit chance whenever you're above 70%. And whenever you start adding these things with also increased damage by 3.5%, you start understanding all of these pieces of the puzzle that they start to fit in to actually make you do a tremendous amount of damage. So now let's go here into the familiars, and this is the part that I actually put a lot of work in the past year. Well, I got pretty lucky, man, because I got myself this brand talent, which we call him Tony. Tony, it is a brand talent that whenever he's gonna attack and is gonna apply this burn that's gonna stay on the target for a lot of seconds, it is actually gonna apply the lingering wounds. And as you guys can see here, the lingering wounds is gonna apply a armor break, increased damage debuff that's gonna increase my damage by 38.2%. This is absolutely insane. So this is definitely one of the biggest shifts that whenever I bought this pet, I literally saw some millions of damage get increased right away. Another thing that I'm also gonna start working on for the next year, it is to start stacking these legendary maim traits, which is gonna be able to increase my critical hit chance up to 8%. So right now, I only have the brand talent. I need to get other pets that will also have this maim trait, and whenever you stack it up, you're actually gonna be able to get 8% more critical hit chance. But the major focus whenever it comes to damage is definitely having a good pet with a good lingering wounds. It will take you a long way. Now let's go here into the last topic, which is gonna be the curse gear. Whenever it comes to the curse gear, well, there's a lot of things that you can do. For example, the curse gear isn't like the craziest damage boost that you will see, but like everything will definitely help. So for example, on this one, I'm using the 6 pieces ghosted because I am doing PvP, but whatever it does is that whenever I do damage, will actually spawn an illusion that is gonna increase my attack and movement speed by 16%. So whenever I'm gonna attack the target, if you see here, it's gonna spawn like this illusion next to me, and like this, while I'm still inside this circle, I got some increased attack speed. There are many other curses that you can actually go with, but the most popular ones, they tend to be, for example, if you're running some summons, well, you can actually increase the attack speed of your summons, which is gonna help them to do a lot of more damage. If your primary attack damage, well, you can also go here with the 6-piece lashes. They have also the 6 pieces tested that is going to create a void under the enemy, which is going to increase the damage that they take up to 12%, which is really, really nice. And you're also going to have the trophy, which is going to apply a continual damage below them. These are the most popular when it comes to PvE. So from my testings, whenever I'm doing like these max DPS builds, the one that I get the best results, it is a 6 pieces tested with a 2 pieces of trophy. But try to see, it will really depends on the build that you're trying to accomplish. Well, this is pretty much all about I can think right now. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. I tried to go like through every single detail, all the changes and everything that I tried to customize on my character over the past month to reach to this new next level. And yeah, I hope you guys learned something. I hope you don't forget to go like, subscribe, and type cheese in the comments if you are a true legend that you still reach here. Holy moly. So guys, thank you for watching, and I catch you guys on live stream. Peace.